Today I want to officially call this Sunday, the Sunday after Easter, Doubting Thomas Sunday. I don't care what the rest of the church is celebrating today. I am going to celebrate Doubting Thomas Sunday. So there. Who is St. Thomas? Does anybody know who St. Thomas is? Should I pick on a seminarian? Let's pick on Michael. Well, I won't pick on anyone, but I'll tell you a little bit about St. Thomas. If you know about it, raise your hand and I'll have you give a few words. Okay. Who is St. Thomas? An apostle of Jesus Christ, we know that, right? One of the 12 chosen. Would everybody agree to that?
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Okay. I think we have a consensus. Sheila's the only one who's drinking coffee. She raised her coffee. Thomas is one of the apostles, one of the 12. We don't really hear a lot about him in the Gospels, but we hear a lot today. In today's Gospel, we heard that he wasn't present when Jesus appeared and came through a locked door, picked the lock or whatever he did to get in, came in to the room where the other apostles were, the other disciples were. Thomas wasn't there. We don't know where the heck he was, to be honest. The Gospels don't say. He could have been buying bread or gone fishing or whatever you do. But Jesus has died, right, a week before, and Thomas just doesn't happen to be there. So, Jesus appears to the disciples, talks with them, and does whatever. Thomas comes back, and the disciples say, "We've seen Jesus. He was here." To which Thomas, Mr. Doubting Thomas, Mr. Doubting St. Thomas says, "I really don't buy that." He saw Jesus, he knew about the crucifixion. He realized Jesus was dead as a doornail. They put him in a tomb. And some people will shake their finger and call you, if you don't believe something, "Oh, you're a Doubting Thomas," for whatever it is. It's gone down to our day, that phrase, a Doubting Thomas. But put yourself into the place of St. Thomas, and I did as I was writing this homily. Would I have believed that Jesus walked into a locked room, appeared to the disciples after he was crucified? I'd be in that same boat with Thomas. I'd be right there. I probably would have said, I gotta have some proof here. Thomas was a scientist. He knew, he actually wasn't a scientist, but he had a scientific mind. He had to see those nail prints. He had to see Jesus' side before he would believe. I think I probably would be in that category. I'm very difficult. When somebody tells me something, I really have to see it before I just say, "Oh, I'll believe it." And I think probably many of us sitting here this morning are in that same boat with Thomas. I definitely would fit into the category of that Doubting Thomas. But the second time Jesus appears, again, he comes in. We don't know how he gets in. They kept locking that room. They were afraid of something. And Jesus appears. You might notice that the gospel, Jesus says to Thomas, "If you don't think I'm true, touch my side, the nail prints, touch my side." The gospel doesn't say if Thomas actually did it. It doesn't. It remains silent. But I can tell you, if I was a disciple of Jesus Christ for 3 years and saw the miracles and saw the love that he gave those apostles and saw the love that he gave to everybody, they loved Jesus. The apostles loved Jesus like no other. I think I would have not only put my fingers in his side, but grabbed hold of him when you think about it. The Gospels don't say that he does that. But I have a feeling that once, well, just think of yourselves. If you have a brother or a sister, and you saw them laid out at a funeral, right? They're there. There's no hope. They're pretty dead. And you go home. You have a family get together, a few sandwiches, and then all of a sudden, your brother appears in the house. Well, that's something, isn't it? Well, that's exactly what happened. Would you not grab your brother and be so happy that he is back to life? I would. I wouldn't stand away from him and say, "Oh, you're a ghost," or you would. It's just a human tendency, and this is also for our parents who've passed. Of course, everybody. I am sure that Thomas grabbed hold of Jesus and wouldn't let him go once he saw him. I believe that today we have a basic lesson about faith presented in the Gospel of St. John. The Gospel of St. John was the last Gospel written, the Gospel that we read today. St. John died a natural death. He didn't die like all the other apostles from martyrdom. He lived until he died of natural causes. And today he's telling us, he's recounting that story. He was the youngest of the apostles. He's recounting that story. Probably he's in his 90s when he's writing his gospel. He was there as an eyewitness to all of this. A true eyewitness to Thomas not believing, a true eyewitness to Jesus showing up in that room, a true witness of Thomas admitting, "My Lord and my God, this is Jesus who's risen from the dead." And that's a basic lesson about our faith. St. Thomas not only expresses doubts about Jesus, but he doesn't even believe the apostles. Can you imagine that? He doesn't. We sometimes miss this. Not only does he not initially believe Jesus rose from the dead, he doesn't even believe the people who saw him. He's like, you guys are crazy. This just didn't happen. But today, we see the Holy Apostle Thomas and his lack of faith turn into faith. Thomas, among all the apostles, probably ventured further in his ministry. There are churches that are in India that bear his name. Legend has it, and tradition of the church has it, that Thomas probably wandered almost to the end of India. Now, if you look at where they were in Galilee and in Jerusalem, it's a heck of a walk down to the bottom of India, to southern India. But he did. After he saw Jesus Christ and put his hand into his side and confessed in the faith that Jesus has risen from the dead, he traveled the furthest. Traveled more than Paul, traveled more than Peter, to tell the world about Jesus and his resurrection from the dead. Today, let us contemplate and think about St. Thomas and how very much we are all like him. We all doubt the faith at times. It is natural to doubt the faith. Don't let anybody tell you, if you have doubts about your faith, that it is not a normal thing. I have doubts each and every day about the faith. Is this true? One day we will find out what is true and what was made up. Let's face it. Some of the things we will find out as Catholics where we were probably a little bit off the bat on. But that does not keep us from the love of Christ and the resurrection of Christ that saved us from death. That will never change. Eating meat on Friday and getting blessed by the candles of St. Blaise and all these other beautiful traditions, some of them we'll see where probably just man-made traditions. However, one tradition will hold firm, that Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, died, was buried, and then rose from the dead. These three things I believe. I have no problem with that. I have no doubt in that. May you also experience his love through his resurrection. Amen.